All right, hey everyone, it's Micah here, just jumping on here for a minute to bring you a perspective on four basic chord structures that you may already be aware of them if you're intermediate or more advanced guitarist, but maybe you've never seen them from this perspective, right? Of course, we have a lot of open chords. I think we learned as a beginner, right? Like E major or A major, D, right? C, G. Maybe you learned a couple bar chords like an F chord or a G chord, right? But if we look at it, the way that these chords are linked up and what they're derived from, every chord has a lowest note, right? Or a root or a bass note that determines the name of that chord essentially. So if it's some kind of C chord, it's because the lowest note in that chord is a C note, right? So whatever variant of C it is because the lowest note is a C note, like this C note right here on this 8th fret. Same thing with this G chord right here. If we play, a G or a G bar chord. Now what you notice here is this G chord right here, and you can see maybe you're already familiar with this open G chord, pretty basic chord, right? So you can see the frets I'm playing this open G chord. We have some open strings in here. These couple strings, these three strings down here are being played open because they're not even being fretted. So what if we take this G chord? This is a G major chord, right? And we move it up a fret. You notice I'm playing it with these second three fingers. A lot of people might be playing it with like these three fingers. But what if you're playing it with these three fingers and you move it all up one fret and add a bar, right? But it's got to be back here, right? Not over here, but over here, because you're moving up all these notes one fret. We need to move this all up one fret, right? So now we're playing from a G. Now, and this is going to be hard to play down here on an acoustic probably, for example, but if you get used to it, practice it, maybe you can play it a little better. But now we're going from a G major to a G sharp major, right? A G sharp major, right? Now, if we move it up another fret, it's going to go to A major, right? And if you notice here, this is the bass note we're playing, right? It's an A note on the 5th fret of the E string. So if you notice that, it's just like this G over here ties into this G. They're both using this G note as their bass note on this E string, this G note, right? So G and G, just slightly different voicing, right? But still containing the 1st, 3rd, and 5th note of the G major scale, the key of G major, which is how we would derive the G major chord, right? The 1st, 3rd, and 5th note in the key of G major, which happens to be G and B and D, right? So these are all G, B, and D notes. There's a couple G, at least 3 G notes in there, and then 2 D notes and 1 B note, right, in the mix on this chord. But over here it might have a different combination of those 3 notes from that key. So, not going through all the detail on every chord on that, but bottom line, these 2 chords tie right into each other, right? G and G, or major I should say, G major and G major, both using this note as the root note. Now if we move it up here to, let's say we're on this B note, we do that same function like the open G chord with the bar chord over here. Now we're playing a B major chord because we're using the B as the note, as the bass note, and we're using the major chord formation. So if we go up here and still using this note as a bass and play that general major bar chord formation, that's also a B major chord, right? So wherever you're at, you can play those 2 versions of the same chord when we're using this lowest string as the bass, right? Now we're using the next strings down. We have, like what we have here is a C major chord. C major chord. And we're playing from this we're essentially playing this second string as our bass note. And we can play this first string in the mix, because an E note is in the chord. The key of a C major chord has an E note in it. So we can play this open chord, but it's not really this E note. It's not really the bass note of a C major chord. It's the second string, which is the C note. Right? So really, the C major chord would start from the second string to really play it like the way it's supposed to be played, with the C as the bass note. A lot of people will play as C with all notes. It's not going to hurt your C note to have that extra bassy E in there. But that's really kind of more like playing some version of an E chord is what it is when we're playing that extra bassy E note. So, but if we're starting from the second string, playing on the 3rd fret, that's a C note. So that's really the bass of this C chord, an open C chord, right? So with this open C chord, instead of playing it with these 3 fingers, let's play it with the second 3 fingers. Same chord, right? So we're playing C major, and we move it all up 1 fret, and add the bar, right? Not going to be super easy to do down here, maybe, but as you move up, you can see it's a C major. We're moving it up 1 fret at a time. So we went from C major to the next note in the 12 chromatic semitones, which is C sharp. So we're going from C major to C sharp major, D major, E flat major, E major. Right? And all this while here we're using the second note is essentially our main bass note to determine this chord. Right? This is an E note right here on the second string. So, which matches over here on the 12th note of this string, 12th fret I should say, which is an E note as well, just like this is an open E string. And the 12th fret is half of the string. So, like you say, we're just taking this C chord formation and moving it up 1 fret at a time, adding the bar to compensate. We're moving away from the nut here. And like you said, C major, C sharp major, D major, E flat major, E major, F major, F sharp major, G major, G sharp major, and then A major. And you just keep going up the same sequence of the 12 chromatic semitones, which you should already know. A through G with 2 flats and 3 sharps. C, F, and G have a sharp, right? And then B and E have a flat. It's making additional 5 notes added to the 7 natural notes, A through G. So 5 plus 7 equals 12 chromatic semitones. So for a beginner guitarist especially, I think it's good to get this whole perspective. But like I said, these chords here I'm talking about, right? So we got this G major and this G major. We got this C major, this C major, right? And we moved it up 1 fret at a time to make these different chords. So you can play, if someone wants to play a C sharp major, you could do it like this if you wanted, right? But you notice the bottom 4 chords of this right here. If you know a D major chord is played like this, an open D major chord, right? Playing these last 3 strings and using this D, we're using this D string open as our bass note on this chord. So it's just really these last 4 strings to make up an actual D chord with this open positioning here. But really that's actually just a part of this whole D chord here, right? It's using this D note here as its bass note, its D note. And you can see that is just, these are just the last 4 strings playing it, but it's using this open. While it's open, it's playing a D note there. But if we play the whole chord, really, and that makes sense because it's 2 frets up from C. C, C sharp, D, right? So we're playing a D chord here, a D major chord. And this is the bass note of this D chord, right? But what if I play another version of this chord here? It's this chord here, right? You might be familiar with, just like we play an A major down here. We move that up, let's say, to the position we were at. and add the bar. Now we're playing, you know, like what a D, right? A D chord, a D major chord, and we're still using this second string as our bass note in that case. So these two chords tie into each other, just like these two chords tie into each other. Those are different chords, actually. I should say this is a G, and this is a G. Now if I wanted to find the G note on the second string, it's over here. So this would be a G, because I'm using that as the bass note right there of this chord formation. Just like a C when we're playing it open over here, right? And in this case, we're playing a G. And then over here, we're playing a G if we use that same note. Or I'm sorry, we're not playing. Yeah, we are playing a G. So using that note, we play the C, and then we play like we play an A major down here, but with the bar up here, and we play that same chord, right? So hopefully this helps you to understand these four basic chords using the first two strings as their bass notes, right? Like we're over here at the C. I'm sorry, yeah, we're playing the C chord open, right? That ties into this C chord, C major, just like the A major over here, right? So A major, B flat major, B major, C major, right? C major, so that's both C chords. We can do that anywhere. We're over here playing, let's see what note is that? It's an E note, so that would be an E chord, which makes sense because it ties into this E chord, right? So two ways to play a chord, a major chord using this note, this string, wherever you're at. You can play it wherever you're at. Just know the note that you're playing the bass on, right? Yeah, in this case, this is an E, right? If I wanted to move up to an F, I could play an F major, F sharp major, G major, G sharp major, and so forth, just like I just showed you the A. I mean, I'm sorry, not A, but that's G. So, or no, that is A. Yeah, it is A. And we move up here. Yeah, that's right. So I'm playing A right here, and then using this here as the bass note, the A note, which makes sense. That's a 12th fret, just like an open A. So an A note, and then up here playing this A chord as well. So, or right here, you know, this is, like I said, this is an E, so I go to E flat if I want, play an E flat. Or over here, just putting this finger on this note instead of this finger, right? So they tie in, right? And this one right here would be an A, or this would be a C. This is a C note, and this is a C, right? Now you don't have to play the whole chord every time. You can play a derivative, like this D is a derivative of this whole entire D, starting from essentially the second string, but you can play the whole thing. It's not going to hurt it, probably. Right, so hopefully you can see that. And like essentially, it's kind of like taking the same chord. It's just a different voicing, right? A different voicing. The notes are in a different order. It's using a different combination of the first, third, and fifth note out of that major key. It might use 2 fifth notes and 1 first note and 3 third notes, or maybe just one of each. You know, it depends on whatever combination it is. It's going to be some form of this, like G major in this particular case. Whatever chord we're taking, move it up 1 fret at a time in that 12-note sequence that we talked about, A through G, with B and E having a flat. That's a fret before that note. So if it's B flat, it's right before B. If it's C sharp, it's right after C. Right? So sharp is after, and B is before, or down in pitch, where sharp is after the note, or up in pitch, right? So you have an F, and then we have an F sharp. We're not going to have an F flat, right? We have an F and an F sharp, so there's not going to be an F flat. But we could have an F and F sharp and then a G, like right here, F, F sharp, G, right? This could also be called a G flat, right? Maybe you're familiar with that. But overall, it's the same note, right? F sharp and G flat would be the same note or frequency or pitch, second fret on this E string, for example, right? So it can be referred to either way, but it's the same note. The standard way is F sharp, the general standard way. But if someone says G flat, just know that means F sharp, right? So you can use that to take that 12-note sequence to formulate all kinds of chords, even just from these 4 basic overall chord structures, using the first 2 strings as your main bass note for any of those 4 chords. Once again, G major and G major, right? And then over here, actually doing it right here, G major and G major, 10th fret right here, right? This is a G note, which is the same as this G note up here on the 15th fret. G notes. Right, so the 10th fret on the A string is a G note, and the 15th fret on the E string is an A note. So they're both the same. So that would be an A major chord, right? And then, or going over here and playing it from there like this, all on the same fret here with these 3, and then also playing an A major chord because those 2 tie in. So hopefully you're getting that. C major, right? C sharp major. Those are both C sharp major, right? This is D major, and that's D major. This is E flat major, right? This is E flat major. So, right, same thing with the G major and G major, right? G sharp major and G sharp major, right? A major and A major. So hopefully that helps to put it in a little bit of perspective for maybe a beginner or an intermediate or just somebody to see that perspective on those 4 main overall chord structures, general chord structures, like I said, using these 2 lowest strings as your bass notes. So, of course, I welcome you to like and subscribe and let me know if it helps you to see the fretboard in a new perspective. And maybe that helps you to kind of formulate more chords, like especially if you're a beginner, maybe you're learning chords one at a time. And now this kind of opens up something for you in terms of knowing the 12-note pattern. Understand the B and the E have a flat, and the F, the G, C, and the F have sharps. And the A and the D don't have a sharp or flat, right? But just knowing that 12-note sequence, and then taking whatever chord you're doing and moving it up or down in that 12-note sequence. And whatever the variation of that chord is goes with it if you keep the fingering the same. If you're playing, like, you know, a D minor 7, if I move it up here, it's an E minor 7. As long as I'm playing the same finger, I'm leaving this finger off here. So to make it a minor 7, it's an E minor 7. F minor 7. F sharp minor 7, G minor 7, G sharp minor 7, A minor 7, or same as this open A minor 7 without playing. So hopefully this gives you, maybe you like and subscribe and let me know if that makes any sense and it helps you to see it in a perspective, and check out my other videos for more. Alright, till next time, thanks for listening in.